Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Crime Kitchen. Andy's going to cook us a bit more food again today, and I'm going to talk to him about a crime, actually, a murder that was committed in prison, and the twists and turns that took along the journey, which is very interesting. And again, jumping back to, and I always mention it about jumping to conclusions during the investigation process.
Yeah, you will.
But this is one where you really shouldn't. In any event. So but first of all, do you want to just what are you going to actually cook
Real
today?
simple cooking today. I've been marinating some chicken in some garlic, and I know Crime Kitchen didn't like garlic, but we force ourselves. And soy sauce. Been marinating for about an hour, but some onions, some peppers, which are really thinly sliced so they can cook down quickly. We're just going to serve it in some flatbread. It's a lovely snack. I sometimes do it in between sporting events, rugby, football, half time, whatever. I mean, it's a really enjoyable food, lovely, tasty stuff. So we're going to crack that on. I apologise if we keep getting wind up here. We're going to have to change the location, I think. But here we go. So hope I didn't make too much. It smells pretty good already.
Yes. Yeah. So
now this won't take too long to cook. Actually, I'm just going to fry the chicken off.
I'm pretty pleased about that, actually, because I've had, as you know, I've been busy this morning doing various things. I've had nothing to eat, so I'm actually looking forward to having something to eat.
So we'll fry the chicken off, and I'll put the onions and the peppers in, and we'll just fry it off. And you'll see, it's you can smell it now, it's beautiful. So yeah, as Dave said, an interesting case really, and this was when I just come back. I've been on the regional organised crime unit in Birmingham for about a couple of years, and I just come back to force as the DI at Worcester, and in our jurisdiction we got HMP Long Lartin, which is a top security prison. Lots of interesting characters in there. On this occasion, two people who were serving life for murder murdered another offender, inmate who was also a murderer and serving life for murder. And we talked about terrorists on previous episodes, and how long his life imprisonment and all that type of thing, and it's an interesting case because it obviously brought all these things to bear. So what happened is the victim in this case was been convicted of murder for murdering his girlfriend's a little kid who was about 2.
Did you want a beer at all, mate, or not? Do you want a beer or not?
Oh, I've got one here.
Oh, you got one there?
Yeah, you help yourself then,
I'll just grab one.
Yeah, help yourself.
Well, I'll grab a non-alcoholic one.
I don't know if there's any in there,
Oh, yeah.
I was looking in. I think you may use them all up.
Oh, yeah. That'll be all right, I think.
You all right?
Potentially, yeah.
Okay. So, the victim in this case came from Bradford, from his family originated an Asian family, but I'll come on to that. They're a really lovely family, but obviously he got convicted of murder of his girlfriend's child in quite horrendous circumstances, really. And the two offenders who were serving life as well on the wing, they got into his cell like a kidnap type, hostage type scenario, and they strangled him and murdered him, killed him. What the motivation was is a little unsure, but it's probably around drugs. But originally everybody thought that they murdered him because he was a child killer, and that was a lot of people jumped to that assumption. And we talk about assuming things and hypotheses. Well, straight away you've really got to keep an open mind as to why that, because it would be easy to lead down that, irrespective. But for us, from an investigation point of view, is that we've still got to prove, although 3 people have gone into the cell, only 2 have come out in effect, you've still got to prove who's murdered that person.
Yes.
Is it joint enterprise? Who is it who's done it? And which was quite difficult. People think that's easy. Well, it was quite difficult really, because we got to prove who had been into his cell before, who come out, and that type of thing. When it all happened, the cell was actually locked. They locked it behind them, and they were in there. So the prison service are there, going to take these people out of there, and there's a big standoff position, and a big group of specially skilled officers go in to take them out.
How quickly between them going in and murdering and obviously they come out, lock the door, was it some time before they were found, or was
because they got in and murdered him, and then because their realisation, they're in the cell, they know they've murdered him, thinking what they're going to do now.
Yeah.
And then it's probably a bit of a time gap then, as to then the prison service realise something's gone wrong here. Where are they? What's going on? And I think they had pushed the intercom as well, and one of them had said, intimated that somebody's dead in here. So obviously the balloon went up really as to what was going on, and so everybody gets involved then. So the prison service obviously got to take precedence. They got to secure that, get them out. We're on standby round it, and the prison service have got very good at evidential securing evidence now.
Oh right.
They've also got to take them. They've got to take them out of that cell.
Yeah.
They've also got a potential casualty in there. So is the person's dead? So there's a massive risk around this process. They've got to take them out. They've got to think about everybody. On the basis of what these people said, this person's dead, they're assuming it's dead, but you never know. And so that's where we are. So then they eventually they comply actually, and I think it was called the Tornado Squad. They're all, the prison service all armed up, all safety gear, taking them out, and then take them down. Then they take them down to the segregation unit, the isolation unit, in effect. Obviously, we're involved in that process because we want to get the evidence and their clothing, and there's a casualty to deal with. So there's a lot of things going on here, quite a dramatic and dynamic sort of scenario. And you've got a deceased person here as well. You've got you take away what people thought that they killed him because he was a child killer. This person has still got a family and friends that
still classes
some people
as
go,
human
well,
being,
who cares, and you have to take it. You have to, people go, who cares? So, well, actually, I care, and I did care, and my team cares, and we've still got to investigate a murder, a killing, and that person's got a family and friends, so you owe it to them, and that's where you've got to keep that open mind.
Yeah, that's something in itself. What makes the police force special in many ways,
because the peppers now.
Keeping that open mind, knowing that you're effectively trying to find somebody that was a child murderer.
Yeah.
That's takes some coping within itself,
Yeah, that's right. You do. You're right, because it'd be so easy to just dismiss it, and you'd be doing nobody any favours. Society, people. You just got to. You've got to push those things to the side, and you've got to investigate it as if it was anybody else.
Yes.
At any time, and it's important that people do that.
Oh, it definitely is important for sure. It's just, doing it is another thing, isn't it? And
I had some senior officers say to me, I guess the motivation was because well, we don't know that at the moment, and does that matter? And so you. But anyway, So they got, and I'll tell you, there are some funny stories here. No, not funny. Not funny in laughing sort of terms, but so when they go down to the segregation unit, the two of them are shouting at each other, saying, "Don't say this, don't say this," and of course, which is good evidence really. Because we've got to identify that they're both involved. One of them who's done it, and clearly they were both involved and did it. And there was and I'm not going to name him, but there was a person down there, a really horrific offender. Some of his offences were.
Just before you get into that, how do you know they were shouting like "Don't say this, don't say that"?
Because this person told us.
Ah, right. So there was nothing come from the prison guards or the prison service. There is
there is prison officers down there, and if they can hear anything, they will tell us.
And can they be brought forward as witnesses and all that?
Yeah.
Because what's and maybe this is my naivety to it all, but why haven't we got CCTV cameras up and things being recorded in those places? So for things like that, you could have just pulled on the CCTV and recorded.
Well, there is to a certain degree. There is CCTV, but it's not always that clear. And of course, people's human rights and liberties and that there. But there is CCTV for security, like we had on the wing, and that was one of our things where our CCTV could show down the corridor this particular the deceased cell, and we had to show that these two were the last ones to go in there.
Yeah.
Nobody had been in there before.
Yeah.
We had to categorically prove that, because they could have said, "Well, actually, he was dead when we got in there," and so we have to try and take that was to prove or disprove that potential defence.
Yeah.
And when we interviewed them, they just commented anyway, so they didn't say anything. So when they're down and they're things are being shouted, nothing's if the prison officers had heard it, they would, but of course they got lots going on, and I think we did have some sort of recollection from some people. But this particular prisoner who was down there, he was himself a really, he made Hannibal Lecter look like Noddy, this bloke. He had some really horrendous offences. Serial rapist, killer,
and this bloke you were looking to use as a potential witness, like.
So you always, when it happens in prison, you sort of try and see if any other prisoners will give us any evidence, which is very rare.
I imagine you get like a lot of hand waves, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And some people, anyway, he did. This particular person said he gave us a statement saying. I heard this person say this, and this person, I know them, so I know this person, and he gave us a statement, and of course that's good in itself. And you think, well, is he ever going to come to court and give evidence? He's a high security prisoner himself.
Yeah.
Does he want to do it, or is he just,
What was his motivation for wanting it? Because I can imagine somebody like that giving evidence against somebody else like that in prison. It ain't going to go down that well.
No, but that's exactly, that's right. And so he did, and eventually we interviewed and we charged. The Crown prosecution obviously authorised the charging of these two people for murder, and they were taken away from Long Larton, sent to other top security prisons around the country, and then eventually we, probably within about a year or later, we went to Leamington Spa Crown Court, and we had a trial. And obviously they're denying it. It wasn't them, wasn't this, and but obviously all the evidence we had got was saying it was a joint enterprise. They'd gone in and killed this lad. And this particular prisoner did come and give evidence for us, which in itself was a task to bring a top security prisoner out. A category A prisoner.
When you brought him out, was that to do interviews or just to the court?
Both. So we interviewed him in the prison. He gave us a statement, and then he eventually agreed to come and give evidence in the trial. Yeah.
So that was the challenge, was getting him out and getting him to court, was it?
Well, that's right. And the defence team is obviously going to attack his credibility. This is a man who was, serving life himself for some really hideous offences. Where he is, I don't want to scare too much, but he's one of his offences were that he kidnapped a female and was raping her and seriously injured her, and
this is the one that's given the evidence against the other two in court.
So he comes and gives evidence in court, and the defence barrister stand up, and all they're trying to do is knock his credibility, saying you're lying. You're a bad person yourself. All you're doing is just lying to.
Well, I can see that argument.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. It's about credibility, and this particular person sat there and explained to the jury in quite explicit details about this horrendous offence he'd committed. And I can remember standing and seeing the jury's faces, and their jaws were like, oh my word! You could see they're probably being physically sick. I mean, he was obviously getting some kind of, I don't know.
See, I'm surprised the judge actually allowed him to say all of those things when it wasn't connected really to the case.
Well, I suppose in he was saying, well, what he said was, you're having a go at me. You're telling people I'm a liar because of my background, and so he went through all his hideous offences, and then said, I might be a really horrible person, but I'm not a liar.
Yeah.
And it was compelling evidence. I have to say, it was a really compelling evidence, and really, assisted our prosecution of these two, themselves, offenders. They were in there for murder, and they murdered again. And we talked about it on previous episodes. And people, if you want to go back, if you haven't seen the episodes, go back. We talk about what does life sentence mean.
Yeah.
And if you get convicted of murder, you're given a life sentence, which doesn't mean you're going to go life imprisonment, and that will be determined about. The judge will give a recommendation as how long you can serve in prison before you're allowed parole. It doesn't mean you can get parole, but it means, say what? Let's say the recommendation is 20 years. You go to prison, 20 years later, you can apply to the parole board to say, I want to come out. Parole board can go, no, you can't. Da-da-da. Or you might not even get the opportunity. Well, one of these people who had murdered, he exceeded his recommendation. So I think his recommendation for the murder he committed was 18 years. And he was well over that, and it's because he hadn't been a very good prisoner.
Right.
He played up and done whatever, and so he wasn't getting parole because you're not getting parole because you've done this, and this. And
you haven't behaved yourself.
So that was it. Anyway, they got convicted, and they were given a full life tariff. So that means that they were convicted of another murder, and the judge said, you will never ever come out of prison. And they appealed that, and we had to go to the Court of Appeal sometime after, and they lost the appeal, and they are now serving continued, and rightly so, because they're quite old. But it just goes to show, doesn't it, about tariffs and that.
It does, yeah.
Now the family of the lad who was murdered, they were a lovely family. Came from Bradford, originally an Asian background. They originated from Asia. And because they were a big family, and they came down to the trial. Some of them came down to the trial every day. And of course, you can't get everybody, and they were a big family. And I said to them, look, just so many of you come down.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the trial, whatever happens, I will come up to Bradford and do a presentation as to the investigation and everything, and just tell you why we did this, and which they agreed to do, because otherwise there could have been like dozens.
How long had the guy been in prison that who got murdered?
That's a good question. Only a couple of years.
Right.
Yeah, he hadn't been in long. A couple of years.
And he was on a life sentence.
Yeah, he got. I think his tariff was 20. I think it was 23 years.
Yeah, so he'd obviously done some serious crimes that he'd been committed for. So
yeah, that's right. Well, he'd murdered his girlfriend's child, and yeah.
So
we did, and let's do that down a bit. I think it's nearly done.
Smells good, mate.
In fact, I did go up there, and did a presentation. We got into the room, and I took some of the team up, and we gave a presentation to all the family, and it was very well received. And then we were invited back to the family's house, well, to say they fed us would be an understatement. The whole family, we came in, we gave the presentation, and then.
And this was after it was all done.
It's all done, yeah.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.
A few chips we made earlier, and the family and the neighbours are coming round, and I said to my team, I said, make sure you eat a little bit of everything. Don't you won't eat everything, and the food.
Yeah.
And his mum his mum made this, and I love biryani. His mum made this biryani. Well, I've never tasted anything like it. You know, he says, and probably nothing like you get in the restaurants. You know what I mean? But it was absolutely to die for. But yeah, lovely family. Sad, isn't it, really? And they didn't know.
Yeah, it certainly is, and I mean, very sad for them. Obviously, I mean, they obviously had gone through a lot of pain prior to that, with their son's trial and being convicted of that and what had gone on there.
Yeah,
so,
it's
yeah.
Yeah, but prisons are we can do a whole episode on prisons, really, and I had a lot to do with prisons when I was on the organised crime unit, and it's a different world, different life. It's a whole miniature, minimised sort of world. It's got its own politics and hierarchy and all that type of thing. It's a fascinating thing in itself, but in prison life, it's tough. It's but
I would imagine it's quite easy to get institutionalised in that.
Oh, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah, wouldn't be for me.
I mean, I haven't done a number of investigations in prisons, especially Long Lartin is a classic. I mean, obviously the police aren't too well liked, and the security around us to put when we go in, you know, to incidents like this, for example. I mean, some of the prisoners would like to get to us.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah.
So, you know, and we got you know, a cell. We got a massive crime scene. We have to preserve, and then our scenes of crime officers, forensic investigators have to go in and try the evidence from there, and the CCTV. It's working together, and they've still got, you know, the prisoners still got to keep all that good order and discipline within the prison. It's all going on, and you know, and I'm sure some of the prisoners know when the police are coming in, they can.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, very sad. Of course, those children never come out, so this is good. Well, good for society. I tell you what, not bad, is it?
Not bad at all, mate. Did you make them, or they bought? How good they are.
I'd like to say I made them.
Well, they are like homemade ones, though.
No,
they are. It's,
And you can, excuse me. Use anything you want. You can use wraps. You could use pita bread, naan bread.
yeah.
It's just, you know, it's
No, these are particularly nice. Where did you get these from?
Get these from local supermarket.
Yeah. Very good. Well, do you think we can?
Natural conclusion there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone want any questions? Please ask us. We keep. We know we've got a list of people that want us to go and cook for them. Happy to come and do that. We'll come out. We'll cook some, you know, big old paellas. We can do whatever you want. Be part of our YouTube episode. It's all free. Make a donation to the charity is all we want. And ask as many questions as you want. And please fire them in now. We can try and answer if we can.
Yeah, we'll be able to answer them. No problem. Yeah.
All right.
All good. Take care. Have a good day.